So I just want to turn it over to Akuzuru now to maybe give a little greater sense of her approach and her philosophy. You speak to the video and also to your practice and how you feel that that kind of informs a kind of ancestral intelligence in comparison with quote unquote artificial quote unquote intelligence.
Yes, every time I say the word artificial intelligence, I kind of cringe at the word artificial. It's problematic for me. But like I've been saying that, artificial intelligence or AI, maybe it's better for me to just say AI. It's really a tool that can be rendered in various ways. But with regards to my practice and the way I look at existence itself, I look at the ancient, the ancestral, and the ancient. And the ancient is it's old. It's you cannot measure time. So it's cosmic. It's infinite. So this is where I'm tapping into. I'm tapping into the source, which is sacred, right? And in doing this work, Spora Mystica is an ode to the purity of existence itself and the mystically imbued qualities of spores. And when you talk about spores, you talk about these sort of microscopic organisms that are floating in the air, in the atmosphere. And everybody breathes in these spores by the millions. And these spores are old. They come from time immemorial. And so, for something like AI to sort of capture that and how we interact with spores, how we interact with those elements, of the universe that, that we communicate with, that we make contact with. It is a feeling. It is something that AI as a machinery, it cannot replicate that. It cannot really replicate consciousness because fundamentally it does not have a soul. This certainly will sound like a resistance towards AI, but I say again, it is a tool, and it's not something for me, as in my practice, that replaces. It cannot replace that which you craft with your hands, with your mind, because the mind is something very ancient, is something very primal, right? The unseen, to tap into the unseen is something very primal. It's something that you find that a lot of humanity today is sort of veering, against or forgetting that where we come from. There's this constant wanting to get into AI, to get into that little square box, to get knowledge when the whole thing is right there in front of you. People are forgetting that there's something called experience. And for someone to write experience into the machine or into books even, or into artistic practice, experience is what shapes you, it's what sculpts you, it's what sculpts your thinking, it sculpts the mind. So what is the fearful thing that I am seeing is that this artificiality that has become very trendy. The fear is that people will lose out on real primal experience of existence, of life, of connecting. That is the main issue here. So what I said about Spora Mystica, this intergalactic experience of the cosmic, microscopic, unseen suggests an interdimensional phenomena within the traversing patterns of spores. Humans and animals breathe in, literally inhale millions of spores continually. And each breath carries the essential life force of spores that makes existence a magnificent, intangible happening. Spores are a continuum of new births. So through performative communion with the unseen, microscopically powerful spora will be attuned through various gestures and stamps of sound, movement, texture, and form as the artist's bodies as spore cells navigate the grounds, of that, that fort on that beach where I did the performance, connecting the trees as sentinels with the architectural and mounted historical structures. So as an environmental intervention, this multi-sensorial work will most pointedly engage the surrounding ocean, the water element which flanks the earth itself becoming an integral core of this exploration, right? So in looking at ancestral intelligence, ancestral ancient intelligence, we're looking at language as code in response to nature. Ancestry includes the animal worlds, insects, and all biodiversity. Ancestral language could have evolved from interactions with birds, dolphins, etc., as a means of understanding themselves vis-a-vis themselves as humans. For instance, I was looking at a very old documentary on the Sankoy people of South Africa. And what fascinated me, this was years ago, and this is a very old documentary, probably from the 60s or so, or 50s. And as they communicated, they sounded like birds or dolphins with their continuous clicks and physical gestures. And a lot of ancient languages are like that. Ancient languages are connected to the environment, So you'll find certain, ethnic peoples from different parts of the world would have a knowledge of hundreds of different languages, which is in tune with their immediate environment. So that's my take on that.
Well, you certainly made the connection between the body and the environment in which that body exists, the natural environment, and the importance of that. And I guess the question is, where does the tool that you speak of, the digital tool that is becoming more sort of omnipresent, well, certainly omnipresent, and certainly much more omniscient in a sense. Where does that sit with us now? And maybe, John, we could bring you in and get some of your ideas about that.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And yes, there's I have a few thoughts, but I want to narrow it on to our work as not only as practitioners, but also as educators, and the focus on the body in motion. And when I think about the fundamentals of movement, I think that AI, as Makeda says, although late in the game, is one of the many systems, processes, technologies that we use to encourage people to get in touch with their bodies. But with all these technologies, we still have to consider that until the body breathes, right? Until the person experiences it, embody it, internalize it, in order to communicate and then express, then we really haven't engaged in the full gamut of what dance is. So again, I think sometimes we elude ourselves by thinking that is the technique that makes us dance, or it's the AI that gets us to dance, or sometimes even when we engage with the elements like water and nature, we think that that's enough, but until we have a connection to it. And in a conversation yesterday that I had, I think we talked about technology as something that advances the idea of connection and alignment. So if we're not working to vibrate at that particular level, then we're not going to be able to activate it, we're not going to be able to communicate it, and we're not going to be able to express it. Even if we have all those elements in place, there's another thing that has to happen to create that activation. And sometimes I think that we rely on these new technologies to do the thing that we know essentially from our ancestral knowledge, from our traditional knowledge, from our formal dance training knowledge, that until you do the work, you do get to express yourself, that the technology can only do but so much. The challenge that I have with AI, then artificial intelligence, or in this particular instance, as I understand it, the ability for the process that we're learning about is that we seem to be confining ourselves to what it can offer us. And I ask myself, who is creating this AI? Because when I engage with AI, the movement capture processes and all these things, I'm not able to get it to do things that are integral to my life as a Caribbean person, right? I can't get it to roll its shoulders. I can't get it to roll its back. I can't get it to wind its hips. I can't get it to bend over. And I think that is because the persons who have been the creators of AI up until this point don't have that in their frame of reference. And I think that if we are to take AI, and if we are to take on AI, or if AI is trying to take over them, then we have to create it. We have to be the ones that are in charge of the generation of an AI that reflects our reality as Caribbean people. And at the moment in time, just like when I was younger and I was in college and I was studying Bartenius fundamentals and Laban notation, and I couldn't really find the notation to express what I was feeling and sensing and doing with my body. I think until we get to a place where we can directly engage with this technology to truly reflect us, we're in danger of reinforcing those aspects of that technology that reinforce aspects of ourselves that keeps us separate and apart and disconnected from our reality and our identity as Caribbean people. So if it is that the AI can only use straight lines or only activate the arms or the legs or the head and bend the knees, then we take that on without adapting or adopting or making clarifications as to what the difference is between what they are doing with AI and what we can do with our bodies, then we are in danger of marginalizing, erasing, making not as significant what we are, who we are, and we are continuing then to be bombarded by things that are coming to us from the north. I advance that we should really try to recenter how we engage with AI or get AI to engage with us in the way that we move, the way that we express, the way that we identify. And that these things that will be added to the canon of knowledge of going to a class and being given context about where this information comes from, what was it used for, what was its purpose. And that information then can only become activated when we embody it, when it becomes knowledge that we can communicate, we can express, we can produce.
You know, that kind of says that not only can AI not take Riddim, AI don't know the Riddim to take it.
Okay? Up until now, we have not been the creators of this
AI. Right. So that the larger question is, do we even want that? But I suppose in the scheme of things, when AI is here, it's here to stay, right? So that we would want that kind of representation. It actually comes down again and again and again to a question of representation. And that's a whole other kind of challenge that I think we have. And I think the answer might lie in, as you say, to try and get our information inside of the matrix. But I also think that as we speak about technology and those words, that surround technology, I've always been fascinated with the human body. The human body is one of the greatest sets of technology ever. You're born with this technology. You may not have all the language when you're born or whatever, but the fact is you have this capacity because of the number of nerves and veins and arteries, etc., that you're born with. And the brain that you're born with. Any animal, it doesn't matter if it's a human animal or not, you're born with incredible capacity. And that is a technology in itself. The technology of the body then starts to develop, I think, when, as you say, you get knowledge into it, right? You're socialized, or you understand your environment more, what have you. And so your technological makeup, your organic technology starts to respond to that. And there's a way, I think, in which we forget that our bodies have this technology because we always think of it as external. And we don't, as you say, you've mentioned the word primal. I think the primal technology is us, you know. So I just want to segue a little into Valencia, because Valencia has some very interesting sort of solutions. And I believe she was recently here in Barbados, but couldn't stay. And she did an actual workshop with AI and dance. Yeah. And Valencia, I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you are available, but if you want to speak a little to it, you know, if not, we can do your we can speak on your behalf, and we certainly know that you have videos that we can show. Hey Valencia, seeing you now. Hi. Okay, so once we have we have sound, great. So Valencia, if you want to speak a little to stuff, and then you know, we can show one of your videos.
Hey, hi everyone. It's amazing to be here and join. I'm hearing an echo of myself, so it's a little bit hard to focus. I don't know if it's something we can. Okay, can everybody still hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I am joining you from the San Francisco Bay Area. That we've heard is a place that is a place of extracting the profits, and when it comes to the cultural heritage and all the amazing works of art and people's amazing writings that are being fed into generative AI as we know it today. So it's quite interesting to be joining from here. For me, I'm in awe of everyone, you know, who has Makeda's work, Kuzuru, Sonia, and John. You're my teachers, and I look up to, you know, your amazing insight. Personally, for me, my involvement with this technology started quite some time ago in 2013 when AI wasn't quite as widespread, but it was just now getting to be kind of understood as now an integral part of our existence, the way that we interface with information. And back then, a lot of the tech that is now very readily accessible was not. And so I came to it through a dance research residency that I did with my now husband, Botan Bognar, where we asked, well, AI was being spoken of as disruptive technologies in that it really is changing the way that we live and we like, you know, interface into the information. And so I wondered about what will happen in performance art and dance, where the body is so integral. And so what we did was just jump right in and ask the question, can I ever teach a computer to dance? And if so, could I have an improvised duet? Because I was curious about how would a system like that that doesn't have a body or it doesn't have like gravity or physical limitations, how could it influence my creativity? So we kind of jumped in and just tried to see what it would mean. And for me, in my personal journey, I realized that yes, I wasn't able to express myself as a Caribbean person. I wasn't able to do much undulations, but it did give something interesting to my way of performing because I improvise. I'm an improviser, and so I was looking at it from the stance of a kind of visual stimulus and a way to respond and to come out of movement habits that, you know, come up in your training. And I must say that my training and the way that I approached dance, especially at that time, was more it was more based on like modern dance and improvisation. So not directly looking at the Caribbean dance forms. So you know, because of that, like it was able to take some movement that I did based on Laban, like use of space and the way of like using the straight lines and I was able to create movements that I would have never, thought of. It did do like what I would call humanly impossible movements, and I found it generative in a way that it caused me to move in a way that I normally wouldn't. So I was able to express in a way that normally I wouldn't be able to if I was, in duet with another human dancer. And for me, I actually ended up being able to express some feelings that I was having at that time. I was living in Hungary, and I was a lot of times the only Black person and dealing with the confrontation of stereotypes. And so I found in that weirdness of the AI movements, I was able to express something that was happening to me in my lived experience. And I was able to make a piece based on those strange movements. And I was able to find my voice in that way, which is a bit strange to think about, but that's the unexpected that came from actually engaging with AI and the questions that it brings about directly.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. So I think we'll just play one of your videos now, or maybe two back to back. There are two trailers. One is labeled 1 and the other one is labeled 2. So I think that should be fairly... Now that I think of it, I remember relabeling them. So if you could just play those for us, please. I'm not sure what order they're in, but I believe it's the I Am is the first trailer. So if you could get that.
Yes, I Am is that project.
Right, I Am, yeah. I Am, so we could get that trailer, please.
So I wonder if I could say a little bit about that to kind of contextualize what we saw. So this project was based on thinking about AI as a creative partner. So I wondered about what if it could actually influence my creations and my way of moving. And so we think of AI as just another intelligence, not replacing, but kind of complementing and in dialogue. So thinking beyond like the binary of good or bad, human, non-human, but what if there is some kind of dialogue? What can come out of that? And so, yeah, I challenge us to maybe hold on to these questions are, I think, the real value of AI when we can really question the use of like saying that it's intelligent. It's not intelligent and it can't replace humans, but what if it can do things that can bring us to something more than what we can do on our own. So when we think of the idea of like creative ideas, what if the input of a computer might take us to some insight that otherwise we wouldn't be able to achieve on our own? Not saying because it's not because it's superior or anything, but it's just different. So that's my take on that.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you. You also did a video called Sugar that speaks to, if I'm interpreting what you told me correctly, it speaks to the Middle Passage in some way and aspects of enslavement, but also with AI. Could you speak to that a little more? Because I'm pretty sure I'm bungling it a little bit.
Oh, no problem. So Sugar is a performance, is a virtual performance that came about during the time of the pandemic when theaters were closed. And so I think of it as coming out of like that 4-year research that I did, interacting with an avatar, with like dance in a virtual space. And so when theaters were closing, I asked the question, what if the performer goes into the virtual world? And that took me to another project called Volumetric Performance Toolbox, where we asked the question, like, could a performer have a live performance in a virtual environment? And at that time, there was a program by Mozilla called Mozilla Hubs, where it was a social virtuality environment where you can access it on the internet and you could actually meet people in that virtual space. And so at the beginning of that research, I got to find a digitized, a 3D model of the Annenberg sugar mill that a company actually based here did. So they used what they call LiDAR technology that scans, it can scan a large area of space. And so they actually scanned a plantation. And I found this sugar mill, this digitized sugar mill, and I thought of the work that Her Majesty Queen Mother Doti Dasir does on reparations and the idea of spatial justice, where she speaks about the right of descendants of African enslaved people to the memorialization of their ancestors' struggle. And so I asked the question, well, if I can dance in that virtual space, could acts of healing and affirmation in a space that was filled with injustice and pain, could that actually serve as a kind of a reclamation or some way to give awareness to this history and aid in reparations. So that's what Sugar is. It's this it's a journey where you are in your web browser and you can see me. I'm actually dancing in my living room, but you see me in the space of the sugar plantation.
And how long is that one? I couldn't remember. That's about a minute too, right? Or is it
Yes,
longer?
it's just the
Yeah.
trailer, but
It's
the
just a
actual experience was about half hour. And so participants were given a link and then you got in the link and you basically were like an avatar moving in a space and you could move around with the arrows on your keyboard. And we started in the belly of a ship, and then we guide people in the experience of being on the ship, then going onto the plantation, and then it culminated in a performance of reverence and affirmation.
Well, let's take a look at the trailer just to get a sense. The trailer called Sugar, I think it's number 3. Great, great stuff. Thank you, Valencia. So I
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask my esteemed panelists that are not virtual but here, sitting next to me, if you had any other comments. And I have one after that little segment. I have one exercise which I think I'd like to involve the audience with, so that we can kind of round off the discussion. But please, if you have any other thoughts or comments, please share it or them.
Sorry about that.
You really don't like technology. You didn't even take up the mic.
No, man. No, sorry. Yes, Valencia, thank you so much. That was really thought-provoking. And it now draws me to this, these questions that were posed, generally for the panelists. And I sought to respond to each question, text response to the thematic questions of AI can't take Riddim. So this conversation opens a spiritual window into the artistic soul of the Caribbean. Through invocation, testimony, and shared ancestral memory, we ask, how does the artist become a vessel for spirit? And I responded by saying the artist embodies the spirit of that which she incantates through sound, movement, space, and breath. The creative gesture of intention reverberates an energy force that weaves the connection between a communion of bodies. What is the relationship between creation and communion? Creation communes the energy forces that reveal themselves in that moment of fleeting realization. This is not a relationship, but an in-between immersive power of cause and effect, call and response. How do we hold the sacred in contemporary Caribbean life? And how is that sacredness reimagined, remembered, or resisted through art? The making of art is a spiritual process. The sacred can refer to certain nuances of gestures and various actions through spiritual self-explorations, which can be multidimensionally translated through the artistic process and ultimately transcended. The sacred, thus reimagined, is dissipated through the cosmos and into the hearts of those who receive it. The harmony between man and nature becomes even more precarious given this trend. Thus, the concept and reality of going back to the source, the sacred, becomes even more significant. The source strokes sacred as being memory. How does the dancing body evolve in the age of AI? How can spirit and movement translate across code, light, motion graphics, and still pulse with the soul of the Caribbean? AI, as it has become known in modern carnal reference, is just a tool that can be rendered in many different ways of expression. Ancient ancestral intelligence, as an act of resistance, invokes the sacred memory and by far precedes the modern nomenclature. But the fundamental difference is that the artificial is not centralized in its definition and practice. Ancestral intelligence brings to the fore a very centered, spiritual, material application of rhythm, movement, and most importantly, the natural environment. There was a time when natural telepathy was the mode of communication amongst ancient peoples. AI, the modern version, reconfigures and copies, whilst the original demands attention to physical rhythm and real energetical expressions. AI is decorative, a hypothetical prism. This prism is a backdrop, but not the center. It is an experimental application which can only serve as a reference, as it is flat and without depth. Spirit and movement must and will bypass this superficial backdrop, but must herald the power of the artist, being absorbed into the real, raw environment and the omnipotence of existence. So that's my little elaboration on that.
Well, that speaks to your work in general, in terms of how you connect with your physical and spiritual environment. This is a through line through your work, and so that is something that I think you hold very dear. And what about you, John? Do you have any other comments or so?
Well, I'm still grappling with the reality that all new technologies at some point we engage with. There was a time, for instance, when we would not have had the opportunity to record or even photograph. And I think yesterday we were talking about ritual spaces or spiritual spaces where that would have been forbidden. And now we're at the age, especially since the pandemic, where everything is on video and everybody has a phone, right? And everybody has, so that we have to engage with our education system, our systems with that information. And I think AI, although we may have these concerns about it, it is something that we're going to have to make room for. We have to accommodate. So I think we have to be mindful of the concerns that we may have about its ability to erase, that we have to be vigilant about what we want to retain as a people, so that we have that information to share across generations, so we don't have to worry about it. I mean, there is and also to be open to what innovations AI can offer, right? Because like Valencia is saying, we can engage in transformational or healing practices or community practices or practices that do not require us to have a space to begin to interact with this idea of movement. But not that it should ever replace it, but at least we can find ways that we can work with it. But I think to just embrace it wholesale without noticing that there is a systemic attitude towards, what is written, what is shown, what is produced, what is filmed, and now what is AI, can preoccupy the mind of a future generation in the ways that those who are moving on might be concerned about how our reality, how our spirituality, how our culture will be preserved from this generation on. So I think we have to be mindful, but that it's here, and if we don't get a chance to be part of the conversation about how it can reflect us, we will have to be open to what changes we can expect.
Well, lots to think about. As we mentioned, we have no pat answers to anything. What I'd like to kind of tie everything together with is going back to Makeda's work, if you could take out the document. And this is where I'm going to try and get some of you all involved, right? And we'll just end it there. And to the technical people, I am going to put you on the spot. Could you go to YouTube, please, and get Laventil Riddim section? Okay. Just go to Laventil Riddim section. You should be able to get some, probably Juve, Laventil, Laventil, Riddim, Riddim, spelled the Caribbean way, section. Okay? And have that on cue for me, please, if you can. And if not, well, the audience will just have to provide the rhythm. So that's another task for you all. But what I wanted to do is take out Makeda's document. Now, she has some very key words about what AI can't do, but because it's in us, right? So things like jab, jab, and so forth. Could somebody, and I need to see this show of the hand, could you ask ChatGPT right now, how do we dance with the following elements? And then we'll take some words from Makeda's stuff, and we'll see what ChatGPT says. Okay? I'm interested. So who's going to be the volunteer? Oh, good. Oh, all right. There we are. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. So, Dutty wine. D-U-T-T-Y, wine. That's the first phrase. Next thing.
Dancehall dirty wine, yes.
actually it's dance hall, dirty wine. So dance hall, one word, dirty, which means dirty, but again, the Creole way, D-U-T-T-Y, right? Wine, W-I-N-E. And if any of y'all spell wine with an H, or let talk to me afterwards, because I have some schooling for you. You understand? Okay. Continue.
Let me see if I get some key words here. Jab, jab.
Jab, jab. J-A-B, space J-A-B. It's just one question. You have commas after all of these things, right? I think it's easier that way.
Following elements. Dirty wine.
He wants you to have a... There we go. Right.
Good.
What else?
So the prompt goes, how do we dance with the following elements?
Correct. And then you put everything that I've listed for you because it's coming from Makeda's text.
Dirty wine is there.
Present and accounted for. Very good. Jab, jab.
Gosh, my spelling.
When the bass drops, let me see.
Jab, jab.
I think she had Bele in there too.
Yes.
B-E-L-E.
Ballet.
D-E-L-E.
B-E-L-E. Yes. What else did she have in there? I think she had something on the first page.
Kalinda, Orisha ritual.
Okay, let's go with Kalinda because that's...
Kalinda.
Yeah.
K-A-L-L-I-N-D-A.
K-A-L-I-N-D-A.
Can you make sure you spell jab, jab so I don't make a mistake?
J-A-B, J-A-B.
J.
Two separate words.
Right.
J-A.
I think that's enough. The poor algorithm can't handle anymore. So let's just go with that.
This is precisely it.
All right, and see what comes up.
Oh, God.
And could I get the rhythm, please? The Lavender rhythm section, if you can find it and play it.
How about the very word Riddim? Riddim.
Thank you.
Very nice.
What does it come up with? You should just read it out.
Okay, great question. You're pulling together 4 powerful Afro-Caribbean dance traditions, each with its own story, rhythm, and body language. Let's break them down one by one. Dirty wine, Jamaica and dancehall. Style, energetic, sensual, head and body focus. How to dance it. Stand with legs apart, knee bent. Rotate your head in a circular motion. Add shoulder rolls and hip movement to accentuate the rhythm. Hands can rest on knees or extend outward for balance. Emphasis, attitude, flow, and stamina.
So I don't think to me it's like Laban, that you have the description but you don't have the feeling.
Yeah.
Okay? So that Laban is a technique developed by Rudolf Laban many years ago, and there are other techniques, Bartinieff as well, was developed to try and map how movement works. But thus far, as we stand here in 2025, I don't think we can actually, or an algorithm, no matter how advanced or how simple as Laban would be considered now in terms of mapping, can actually get the feel of the body, all right, or what the body feels and what the body exudes. So I feel that is something that we probably could kind of look at and consider when we talk about AI or any other device. Something else might come up. Tomorrow, something else might come. It may not be AI, it might be something else, right?
And so to that point, it would be that we should never, I mean, I don't want to say that it may never happen, but I don't know of anything that can replace being immersed in a community or going to a formal class or being in a space where you are actually actively engaged in that creative process.
Right.
And I think that's the thing, because AI is not a creative space. It just reflects.
Right. So
It doesn't create. You don't get a chance to improvise. You don't get a chance to make mistakes and you don't have that aha moment from the technology itself. It is from the actual engagement with a person who is guiding you through this process.
Right. And I mean, to speak to Valencia's point, there are ways in which you can use it to extract and to learn. So again, we as humans need to be, because we're always trying to rail against prejudice, right? So we need to be as open as we can to understanding what it can teach us, but knowing fully well that we are whole beings and technologies of our own. And I saw a hand in the audience, and I think that would be the only question, comment that we'll take. Yes, this gentleman, Thomas.
It wasn't, well, it could maybe be a comment, but it's just a reminder that what we're calling AI now, for example, ChatGPT is a large language learning engine. And depending on who you are, it will give you different answers because its main job is actually to please you.
Exactly.
People forget that. It tries to give you an answer that you will be happy with, even to the point of fabrication. So when I put it in, it knows I'm a dance professor. So it says, dancehall dotty wine, kinetic principle. The dotty wine is a head rotation technique where the neck, shoulders, and spine are mobilized to isolate and circle the head in a powerful, sustained spirals. What makes it striking is its polycentricity. Hips open, counter-rotate, knees bounce, and the spine ripples while the head cycles. The energy is centrifugal, pulling outward, yet grounded by the hips and legs. And then it continues to go into engagement, and then it says cultural consideration. Dutty wine is hyper-visible expression of dancehall, erotic, athletic, and resistant aesthetics. Engaging in it requires acknowledgement of its Jamaican urban origins, its gender politics, especially around women's bodies and public sexual power, and its placement in dancehall's economy and attention. Same question, same platform, trying to please two different people.
Right. And that is a very interesting
thing.
Can I
follow up on that? There's a very interesting study at MIT that somebody ran, I can't remember exactly the name, how AI is actually really trying to please you. Like a series of prompts, different people, and all the bias that's engraved into the AI, that it would answer you in a way and someone else in a different way. You have to really be careful when you're actually consuming and really trying to adapt. And the other point I wanted to make, and since you're not taking more questions, is I also want us to think about the evolution of AI. Let's not just look at it as, saying it's not human-like. So years ago, they said that AI could never write poems because it was just replicating. Actually, now AI is trying. We may or may not discuss how we feel about it. Just keep in mind that just a simple example. Who here tried to use Google Translate years ago and thought, oh my gosh, that thing is so bad? Today, Google Translate is really, really good. So we have to think about AI as well as how it's evolving over time and what are we expecting from it, because the more we are correcting it, the more we are using it, we're making it better. And we have to decide, what does better mean for us and where are we trying to go as human? So I just wanted to make those 2 points very important before we close the panel.
Yeah, and the thing is, yes, it's about, in fact, I was having this discussion just this morning about AI and how it seeks to please people to the point where it seeks to agree with them where they commit crimes because they want to commit the crime, and the AI is trying to say, well, yeah, if you feel that way, well, yeah, go and rob the guy, kind of thing. And that's very dangerous because it's trying to please the person who's using it. And I imagine, because maybe not, because I don't know if my phone has connectivity, but when I go, when I retire tonight, I'm probably going to see things about dirty wine because I've been speaking about them because they think that I want to hear it, right? And that is how, and that has been happening before ChatGPT, long before ChatGPT, right? What I think, to close, just to talk about the whole issue, even with those two definitions, because they're pleasing two different people, and if we were to do it for everybody might have something different. The question comes back to, does that mean that AI took our rhythm? Okay. Does it mean, and I'm leaving you with that because that's our next talk altogether that we can't do now, right? But the fact is that, does the fact that two people, and then it could be multiple people, have such different results, does that take your rhythm? Or does that add to it? Okay? I'll leave you with that. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, everybody at home. Makeda, oh God, we chop up your poem real good, real bad, girl, but I hope you're okay with it in terms of taking out those pieces of those words and so forth. But you really started, that piece was very on point, and it's really supposed to be performed. It's a performance piece. So just imagine that piece in performance as opposed to just being read. And I want to thank Akuzuru. I want to thank John for their stellar contributions, Valencia for giving us a very, very wonderful point of view about how we can work with the system. And thank you to Mariel Barrow, who's in the audience, who is the one who invited us here to speak about things we knew not much about, but we decided to get some conversation going among ourselves across the waters before we came. And, you know, this is the result. So I thank you, and I thank the audience for your patience and for attending. Have a great evening.
And thank you, Sonia.
So happy we could join. Thank you, Andre, for joining.
We want a piece for Jamaica. Yo, what are you? Oh, man, none of that. Yo, no, brother, no, man. You see you ever play ref? Dirty game, man. Yeah, but I look a bad game. No, I said, person who come from, brother, I want to live good, man. I want to live good, brethren. No shake on, I can play a little bad, brethren. Really have to shake on? Yeah, man, and no badness, brethren. Just live good, man. Come together, and make the violence done.
This is your reminder on how to mark your ballot, easy and confidential. When you receive your ballot, take a moment to read it carefully.